Hi, this is D13, and welcome to Thundertown. Alright, so here we go. We're working on a plateau. This was originally a big flat area, and I just randomly created a plateau and thought, this kind of looks pretty cool. I'm just gonna put some buildings up here and some roads. So I tried these, like a park road or something. I'm not sure exactly what I was doing here. I was just really trying to lay something out that looked kind of interesting. I'm working on the road just a little bit there, and I'm still trying to decide what road I really want. Eventually, after trying so many different kinds of roads here, I just settle on using the standard dirt road that I'm using throughout the rest of the city. Here I am trying to get this to, have a nice slope. These roads are a little rough to work with when it comes to creating a slope on them. Okay, so I wasn't really sure what this plateau was going to be all about, like the main focus of the plateau. So I started pulling out all these radio towers and satellite dishes, and I thought, in a post-apocalyptic or post-cataclysmic world, you'd probably have a need for communications. You'd want to communicate really well. Especially if there were other, towns or communities that had survived. And this would be a very important place. So on the top of this plateau, I thought, okay, here we go. I'm going to start making this the main communications hub for the town. So I started dropping all these towers and satellite dishes and stuff up here. So I put a water tower up here. Then, it's going to be important to have water towers throughout the town because each area is going to need to have access to water, and just in case something were to happen to the water supply. So I'm adding some of these military towers. So the military would probably be quite active in this area. I'm using some of the 𝗪𝗦𝗥𝗞𝗦𝗦𝗢𝗍 concrete block assets, and just love those for placing things on so it looks like something was built up. I'm just putting a ton of little satellite dishes up here so I can move them around once I get them up to a height that I like. I put a crane up here figuring maybe that large supplies and stuff couldn't come up the dirt road. You might have to use a crane to bring it up here. So I have all these buildings, these shanties, slums, sheds, garages, tons and tons of these really run-down building assets. And that one's even got like 4 tires sitting up on the roof. And I also got these cars. These cars are from, I think, the Motor City Online, assets. And so there's a lot of them that are rusted, and I turned off most of the cars and just turned on these using advanced vehicle options mod so that I could have as many rusty vehicles. But that really then means I've got a lot of 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s cars in the city. Not a whole lot of stuff that's more modern. So I started by extending the lower area down here, thinking there'd probably be an area where some people who worked in the upper area lived. And, had their little commercial areas and stuff. So I started trying to work on this lower plateau area, and found this, again, I found this cool windmill thing, but I think it's actually a water pump. I think I talked about that last episode. So here I'm trying to figure out a road that I can have go into this little village area, this little town area here. think eventually I just settle on changing it out with the standard road. And here I go adding more of the block assets, block services, so I can have tons of people moving in here. Oh, more just wiggling the roads, trying to get them to line up properly. And I love these roads, but oh, they are horrible when it comes to getting them to sit flat on the land. So pretty much every building, I would say 90% or more of the buildings are turned into procedural objects, and I'm using the blocks underneath. I am using a few of the buildings not that way. Some of the slum buildings, which really are awesome looking, and I didn't need to turn them into procedural objects. They sit perfectly on the ground, and they just look great. So I put all this dirt all over the plateau, and then I went back in and just deleted all decals because I just didn't like how it looked. It was too dark. Alright, so are you ready to rock? So I decided that this plateau looked okay, but it just looked like a big pile of mud or dirt. And I love the gray flame rocks, so I've decided I'm going to use gray flame rocks along the edges of all the plateaus. And I probably will do all of the cliffs that you can see in the shot, in the valley, over a period of time. If not, in a couple episodes, I might just go through and do them all, or do them all between episodes and show off a little bit of the work. So I'm using the terraforming network there to try and trying to pull in bottoms of the hills slightly underneath the edge of the rocks. But yeah, I've taken these gray flame rocks and I've even made them bigger than they normally are. Most of the time I'm making them smaller. So I extended part of the plateau on this side, just because I thought I'd like to have several tiers of plateau. Eventually you'll see I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to add a bunch of underground roads that link the side plateau areas, but I'm also doing some pedestrian paths where the pedestrians can get between the side plateaus and the upper area. I copied a big chunk of rocks out just so I could reuse them. There's about 6 or 7 different rocks that I really like, and if you just reshape them, resize them a little bit, scale them a little differently, and rotate them, you can really create a really cool custom, cliff face going all the way around. Yeah, I'm thinking this upper plateau is definitely going to be probably where you'd see workers who work with the radar, workers who work with the satellites, and the military people might live up here. Although there'll be I'm looking at doing a military base in the lower area in a future episode. This episode is going to be part 1 of the Radio Plateau, and we'll pick up right where we left off in this episode with episode 4. I really want to keep these episodes to about 30 minutes. I think that's a nice sweet spot. I recorded so much video for the plateau that even running it at the 1300% speed, 13 times speed, it was over an hour and a half of video, so I've had to selectively choose what to remove and what speeds to run certain playback at. Again, here I am trying to get this slope just right, and sometimes you can just wiggle the road and it'll pop right into place, and boy, it really makes riveting video, doesn't it? I'm trying to move a few of the assets around after I started messing around with the roads here. Some of the stuff sunk or raised up a little bit. And here I'm again, just sort of. I'm trying to find really some of these assets, the rock assets that I think will go good along the lower edge of this, the lower plateau here and the other side. Sometimes you gotta rotate and twist and manipulate these rocks just to get them in there perfect. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm a little too much of a perfectionist, and I'll just work on the same thing over and over and over until I finally either give up or get it to where I like it. This rock, this thin, narrow, not so tall rock, I love. Sometimes I've used it over and over right side by side, and because the two different sides of it, the front and the back, are so different, you really can't tell. You could probably put 6 of them in a row and you'd back and forth, and it'd be really hard to tell that it was reused. In the background, often you'll see crazy stuff I'm working on. Like on the right there, you see the sort of Thunderdome area with stands that I was working on for a possible future episode. I do want there to be, for the the law enforcement to have the Thunderdome available. Something that would have been learned from Bartertown sometime in the past, but now taken to another level in the future here. Probably a much cleaner, implementation, so to speak, of the of the Thunderdome. I'm gonna have to figure out if I can do a little replica of the wheel. Bust a deal, spin the wheel. And here I go messing with the road again. Oh, here's where I'm taking some of the vertices on these rocks, and I'm lowering them at where they cut through the road. Oh, and then now I'm bringing the land underneath these rocks up so that I can actually have some solid land to put props and other things on. Because it just, you can set a prop down and raise it up, but it's nicer if you can just set it on top of something. I was considering going through and using some of the concrete assets as props, the ones that allow you to plop things on top of them, and just placing an entire surface of them across these areas, and then lowering them just slightly or putting decals on top of them. More fine-tuning of the rocks, and there's some more of the terraforming networks to try to get this stuff nice and flat in these areas. I really like this road coming through this valley here, and like the separation of the two plateaus. So here I am thinking, man, this needs more stuff. Honestly, it just needs more of everything. More satellite dishes, more and radio towers, everything. And eventually I'm probably going to come back and even more, even do it overdo it more. So more. Here we go with more water towers. That fence actually is interesting but it does conform to the ground, and I love that fence. If it didn't conform, it would be perfect. All right. So I found some of these radars and this huge satellite dish. I just love the look of these things. So I had to find a spot for each of them. Turn that one in the middle with the round ball on it into a procedural object, which all the fence and everything around it disappears when you do that. So it actually made it really nice to be able to, recolor it and put it somewhere on the top of the plateau here. So trying to put some of the radars up high, figuring, you'd want to have the radar running above the rest of the areas if you could. And I was thinking, all right, we're gonna, after I get this big satellite dish in here, I'm putting these little roads in, and this is like the first step towards moving towards getting the roads underground. And here's I'm bringing this road in, thinking, okay, that's where it's going to enter one side of the plateau, and then we'll have to have another spot on the other side. Now comes the most painful part, probably, of this build, is trying to get these roads to work underground. Every time I put them in, it seemed like they would try to pop to the networks up above themselves. And I could not seem to get them to work at first, so I kind of gave up for a little bit and started tweaking some stuff. And here, can you dig it? Yeah, can you get it? Can you go underground? Can you really? I tried so many times to get this to work, and like here you can see I'm actually checking to make sure the road goes underground properly. And I finally got these two connected, and I started bringing them in from the sides and the bottom, but look, it popped through the top again. So there we go again, taking them out. So I've got this one on this side top plateau finally in place, and I had to move a bunch of stuff out of the way so I could see it even. So I know now that I've got my road. Oh no, that's not it. That's an invisible road that wasn't working. Eventually I'm going to get this. And there we go. So I tried actually having it go outside first and then move the road around to get it back in. And so I've got the road on one of these upper plateaus connected, or two of these upper plateaus connected. I finally, again, this one snapped to the top again. So there we go. Now we finally got it. And this last road here can come through the front side, if I can get it the last piece. This last little bit, come on. So the funny thing is I had these bus routes, and as soon as I put that road in, the bus rerouted itself to go through the tunnel. You can see it right there, the bus is complaining. But I've got the game paused currently. I feel like in any plateaus that I'm going to do this to in the future, I'm going to try to do this before I build anything on it. So again, I'm taking the Ronix train tunnels, plopping them in here. So there's the front side entrance, just as you come up the path that leads into the lower plateau, and it exits out the other side. And I detailed most of this up by the end of the episode, or by the end of next episode, around these entrances, except for the one on the far side that you can't see from here, which is down at the lowest level in the town. And eventually I'm going to be putting some sort of security entrance there as well. So after I've got this in here, I've had to come back through and continue with the huge rocks just to try to get everything all lined up and covered up. So one trick I've seen a bunch of creators do is to take a big black door, like train door, and I've used this in the skull in the first episode. Here it is, the big black train door piece. and I moved it around, and oh, I had so much trouble with this. Once I finally figured it out, I was good, but there we go. So I'm going to put this up in here, and then things will just disappear into the black. And it's not that realistic, but it's just, I think it's just a little too difficult to actually get the roads to work properly here. Alright, so I've decided now to come back and fill in a little more of the lower plateau. We got some buildings in here and a bunch of assets for people. And I dropped I'm tweaking some of the upper plateau before I come back down here again. And yeah, so just grabbing more and more buildings to place them down here. I think this needs to be really highly populated. I think because this needs to be the worker area, the place for anybody who's, janitorial or, just paper pushers, low end, positions in the radio/satellite business up here. They're going to be living in this area, and they're also behind this will be behind security, so they'll be more. Say they'd have a higher security clearance living on the top of these rocks on any part of this plateau. The lowest class citizens will probably live either outside the gates of the town, or they will live in some of the lower areas of the town, some of the flat areas at the very bottom down here. But most of the buildings, if not all of the buildings, are going to be of a pretty, haphazard construction, not in very good shape, rusty, a lot of tarps and things like that. So I was trying to find a good, platform, almost like a little, just a little walkway that can be on the outside of these buildings along the top of these rocks. And I found this dock, and I like it, but it looks so clean. Something tells me I've already got a solution for this. I did have some fun placing these in here, though, to make little steps and things out of them. So here I thought, I need a little business. So I found this little red door, and I thought, well, what do red doors represent? I found this little woman and put her on by the door there, and, she runs this business, whatever the business does. Eventually I come back and put a bar sign above it, so it's a bar. So I'm having a little trouble right here, because underneath this area, unbeknownst to me, because I can't see it through the rocks, is the underground road here goes too far back, like considerably far back, before it goes into the actual underground, or it goes down below ground. So like right here, there's no ground beneath it. I didn't know this, so I was trying to pull that road out and nothing would happen, and I eventually just gave up and started placing things there that are completely non-functional but look great. Again, using that same pier or walkway asset here. Let's get ready to rubble. Alright, so I was trying to figure out, I don't like some of these areas where it's kind of muddy down the side of these cliffs, and it doesn't look quite right with all the beautiful rocks everywhere. So after messing around here for a little while with the roads, and I started putting this dirt in, and I just don't like these like dirt cliffs, these big cliff faces. But I did find these rocks. You know, they're really interesting rocks. They normally are for rivers, but if you have anarchy on, you can place them. So here I actually found the rock shape I love, and they're buildings. So the fact that I'm not using buildings as buildings means that I'm using POs most of the time. Means that I have a lot of still space or room towards the caps to be able to use buildings. So I just went crazy placing this at the bottom of all these rock faces. I thought, wow, this is perfect. It looks like rocks have broken away and slid down the hills and just filled in all the areas underneath. So yeah, I really went overboard, but I tried to cover every cliff face here with this, and at the bottoms of every rocky area. I might edit some of this out of future episodes, or I might, leave it in at a higher speed. For the most part, I've done most of the placing the rocks for the plateau. Again, I'm really trying to cover most of the rock, like the mud, the side that looks like mud, with rock if I can, and finishing it off with those the rock rubble sort of rock assets. Back to a little bit more work on Lower Town, trying to get some of these buildings lined up, and that one I actually placed as what it was. It was like a little commercial building, like a restaurant or bar. Actually, on the right there, you just saw me move a little, like a 65 Thunderbird. I keep that prop just through the whole thing. I just keep moving it. Here I'm actually grabbing some military assets. Someone suggested that maybe this area should have, police or military guarding the gate, and I was thinking, yeah, that is actually a good idea. I'm going to put that in here. Oh, you can see a little monster truck right there. So I got this monster truck asset, and I turned it on so that it can spawn. And it's just insane. Like, you see this monster truck driving around the town. So I put this fence in, thinking, okay, this is going to be very low-tech, low-tech security in this area, because, pretty much the people here guarding it are going to have weapons. So, we don't really need a barbed wire fence because people are not going to be crawling over the fence to get in here. And then I thought, all right, I used a bunch of, junk cars earlier to make a wall, or to decorate the outside of the wall, and I got rid of them all. And said, these will be making a return. So I thought, at this point, I'm going to put some of these in here. I'm just going to detail up this little fence with tons of junk, because you know how much I love the junk and the trash. And I decided I'm going to just have to put it everywhere around this entrance, because I really want to detail this up like it's barricaded, so that, people aren't going to be trying to drive in here without proper authorization. Even though I don't really have any gates here to permanently close off the area, I might look into doing something that looks like gates in the future. Yeah, more of these big trash props, and then I threw some dirt in here just to get it looking a little grungy. There's this one big dirt decal that I use a lot. There's a bus depot right there, and just so many, like all the citizens here go to that bus depot. So you get a lot of movement, a lot of people moving around. And the way I had parking set up, I kind of messed that up a little bit, and they were parking on the main roads not too far away and walking into town to get on the bus for some reason. So I put a bunch of these little shrubs and bushes that are all kind of, brown, dried brush. A little more work right here to try to make this look, more seamless. As things get moved around a little bit, I have to keep coming back and reworking some of the areas because areas will sink a little bit or raise up a little bit, and they just don't look quite right. Or an asset will, one of these block assets will pop up through the building. Some of the buildings are just a little too short for the block assets. I kind of wish somebody would make like a dot asset, something that was really short and round, and then just had some symbol on it to let you see what it was from the top. Something that you could really fit beneath things, that something that didn't ruin and could be raised, that kind of thing.
Hey, this is 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗐. Thanks for stopping by. Like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.
So you stuck around till after the credits, so you get a little bonus scene. These are piers or docks that are they're called slum piers or slum docks. And I turned them into procedural objects and started taking some of these sides off to make platforms. So you saw me use, you're going to see me use these in the future. This is a little preview of what's coming in the next episode. So yeah, in the next episode, we're going to continue here with the Radio Plateau. We're going to finish it off. And here I am just making so many of these. I was manipulating them and trying to get them to different lengths. So I was, you see me like sliding pieces over and raising pieces up, and eventually I go back and get rid of, like ladders and things like that, so that I can just have this like library of these that I can use for the future, because I really want to use these a lot. I think all of the plateaus and other areas of this valley are going to benefit from having these really cool platforms that I can use. Here I am taking some of these and just getting rid of all the little bits that stick up above, so I can have these just plain platforms. Like you saw me leave ladders and leave the posts and stuff on the other ones, but I think it's really important to have some of these that are just very plain. So I made one that was really long, that was plain, and then I'm doing a 2 and a 1. Mainly what these are really good for is making little ramps. Like I can take these flat ones and I can lower one side, and they make a great little ramp. So now I've got these big platform areas, and I lowered so you saw me make one that had lowered edges. Now here I'm actually shrinking it down to, so like there are 3x3, a 2x3, one with edges and one without edges. So without those little pieces that stick up. So here I am taking off the little parts that stick up. And then eventually a 2x2. So I've got the 3x3, 2x3, and 2x2s that are platforms. And then you see I have like a 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and a 1 width. And length and 1 width on all the other platforms. So this gives me just like an amazing amount of variety to be able to build whatever I like.